Changes coming all around the NBA as LeBron James has a new teammate, while Zach LaVine, aka Flight Number 8, takes off for the West Coast. In college basketball, the final line, I got a big win on home court yesterday against Ohio State, while UIC drops a bad loss at home. We have a special guest returning to the show, and we'll have our first edition of Old School TV Monday saluting Black History Month. That and a whole lot more in Second City Sports. The Monday edition starts right now. Welcome to the Monday edition of Second City Sports, the first one for the month of February. You're locked and loaded and live and in living color right here on Sports Soul Chicago, along with Miss LaKeena McGee, which is she. I am Sidney Brown. You better know that right now that this is me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow my Kingdom McGee on the Twitter, X, and IG.
Be sure to download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Please follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms, so Facebook, Twitter, X, Instagram, and YouTube. Please subscribe to our podcast. We are located at War Media Podcast. That's WARR Media, PODCASTS. We are located on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. And while you're at it, please give War Media a follow at WARR Media on all social media platforms on Facebook, Twitter, X, Instagram, and YouTube. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
We are unapologetically fun, and we have very definite opinions. If you have any definite opinion during our 2-hour extravaganza we call a Sports Talk Radio Show, you can always hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. LaKeena will get them up on the screen for you. But you decide to troll and or do something silly, dumb, or stupid, I'll give LaKeena full powers to give you fools to be a be a boot.
Bye-bye.
But before we begin, we want to remind you, whether you're watching us live on our Facebook and YouTube pages or you're checking us out on the replay, shout out to the replay gang. Always and never ever forget, you know we will provide.
We'll provide you with some of the best here on Second City Sports, of course, as Sis in the teaser. Our old friend, Kaitlin Sharkey from WGNTV, will join us to talk, Bears, their off season, baseball. There was some trade that happened in the NBA over the weekend. We'll talk about that with her and so much more. Since a lot happened over the weekend. Of course, Old School TV Monday, we kick off Black History Month. We'll be saluting sitcoms all month long. Black sitcoms, that is. You guys are gonna love this first one that we'll be saluting too as well. Illinois gets a big win at home, and UIC suffers a terrible loss, and of course Northwestern loses one of their top guys for the year. Excuse me, and we'll talk about some stuff happening in NBA too. We'll get to that at the bottom. But first, Myles Garrett, the star defensive and the reigning defensive player of the year for the Cleveland Browns, put out a statement saying as much as he appreciates playing in the state of Ohio and representing the Browns, he wants to be traded. He said he's requested to be traded. If you go back to Adam Schefter from ESPN, he first posted his statement. So Sid, I've seen some Bears fans are already saying that, oh hey, could be a good guy opposite Montez Sweat. But you also got to think Buffalo could definitely use him, especially after what happened in the AFC title game. Baltimore, maybe. That could be another team that could probably use him. San Francisco. There are a lot of teams, whether or not they're contenders that could use him. He has 2 years remaining on his record-breaking $525 million extension he signed in 20. But there's no more guaranteed salary. So we'll see if the Browns take a run at that. But then again, Jonathan Jones from CBS Sports, their NFL insider, he does a great job. He's now saying that the Browns, according to sources, that they're not fielding any trade offers, at least for right now. So, Sid, what do you think?
I'll speak as a Bears fan first. Yes, Ben Johnson's your new head coach from the Detroit Lions. Yes, he's going to be given a rope next year and perhaps the year after that. LaKeena, even though this roster is in the middle between not being as bad as we thought and not being as great as we thought. What what move do you need to make to jumpstart this process? You get Myles Garrett. As we talked about on the show, we'll talk about it with Kayla Sharkey coming up at the top of next hour. The Bears, what are their two biggest offseason needs? Pass rusher to go next to Montez Sweat and offensive lineman. If you don't have to mortgage too much of the future, LaKeena, then if you're GM Ryan Poles, you have to make a call into the Cleveland Browns front office right now, because I'm not going to sit here and say they need to give up their entire future draft picks for Myles Garrett. I don't think they're going to pull a Mike Ditka and give up the whole farm. I don't think so, even though Myles Garrett is one of the best defensive players in the league right now. I'm calling the GM of the Cleveland Browns right now to see what a realistic offers that they can get for Myles Garrett. Like you mentioned, all those other teams, Buffalo, especially after what happened last Sunday, San Francisco. Don't be surprised if Philadelphia is in the mix as well. Don't be surprised about the Lions too. So there will be some competition. If you're the Bears, you need to at least put in the call to see what it takes to get Myles Garrett. If it doesn't take that much, then you go for it. The Bears have $67 million in cap space this offseason. I'm sure that Cleveland, if you Ryan Poles, you can work out a deal with Cleveland to pay some of that salary. So if that's possible, so if the sky's the limit for this Bears team, if you walking around like, oh, this is a new beginning, keep on the same script and call the Cleveland Browns front office to see what will take to acquire the services of Myles Garrett. That will jumpstart this process of rebuilding that defense. I know I forgot how many what defensive systems that the Cleveland Browns ran. I know the Bears are going to run a 4-3 system with man coverage, okay? But Myles Garrett is the other pass rusher that you need in this defense. And what better way to jump off the Dennis Allen defensive coordinator era than to get Myles Garrett? Now, with those remaining picks, you can still get your offensive lineman help. I'm sure they're going to get one in free agency and get the rest in the draft. But I would place a call to Cleveland to see what it will take to get Myles Garrett. I'm not saying he is the answer, but you got to be aggressive here. You got to be smart about it, but you got to be aggressive here. If you sit back and think that things are going to come to you, which we'll talk about with another franchise later, then you're going to lose out. But you got to be aggressive. You got to be aggressive now.
Listen to Second City Sports on Sports with Chicago. LaKeena, McGee, Steve Brown with you. Talk about trade possibilities for All-Pro ranked Defensive Player of the Year, Myles Garrett. Now, you do say the Bears, but let's remember there are three other teams that have even more cap room than they do, and that is the Washington Commanders. They're saying they're keeping the name. Las Vegas Raiders, they just hired Pete Carroll. Look, I know he's an office guy, but he loves defense too, and also the Patriots. So they're still, Patriots have $124 million in cap space. So you got to think that, if all those three teams, now again, it's going to be interesting to see how much of a say if they decide to trade. I mean, look, like I said, Jonathan Jones from CBS Sports said a Browns source said that they're not trading. They're not feeling the offer for Garrett right now. And that's fine. Now we'll see if that happens, if that changes as we get closer and closer to new league year, which starts about this time next month. And that's going to be the thing here if you're the Bears. Now, again, you have draft picks, but so do some of the other teams that I mentioned, a few other teams too. I don't know if they're going to trade him within the division. If they do decide to trade him, the Ravens could definitely use him, like I said. But yeah, there's going to be a lot of competition. It's not going to be, it's not going to be easy for the Bears if the Browns are over for business in training Garrett. Because I don't think if you're the Browns, you don't want to, especially as close and close to training camp, you don't want to have to deal with Garrett not showing up. So he said he wants to be traded to a contender. I don't know if the Bears are anywhere near contention at this moment, so he may not want to come here. Now, again, some of the other teams I've mentioned, the Commanders made all the way to the title game. They could probably use some help on the defense, certainly. The Chargers could definitely use when they got a little bit of cap space. Minnesota, they may take a step back next year, but having a guy like Garrett could definitely help. You said Detroit, San Francisco, they may have to clip a little bit of cap space to do it, but now Robert Saleh is back there as defensive coordinator. I think he would definitely love to have him in that front seven. So look, there are going to be a lot of teams that are going to be vie for Mr. Garrett services should the Browns decide to trade him. So it's not just going to be the Bears. So I hope the Bears fans are right, because the Bears not going to, it's going to be a dogfight if they do, literally and figuratively.
Bears fans, if you have any thoughts about should the Bears acquire the services of Myles Garrett, the defensive end from the Cleveland Browns, you can hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. LaKeena will get the up on the screen for you. Let's break down the three teams that you just mentioned. New England, yes, they have the most cap space in the league, but they're not ready to win yet. The only reason why Myles Garrett will go there is because of the money, but they're nowhere near where the Bears are in terms of being the contention. You can argue that the Bears are closer. I think the Bears could be closer to being a playoff team than the Patriots. Yeah, the Patriots have Drake May, but they don't have anything else. The Washington Commanders, who I think they have the best odds. You saw what happened, especially with them this season with Jaden Daniels. But their defense, you saw them get shredded by the Philadelphia Eagles last week in the NFC Championship game. That would definitely be an upgrade. I think I would give Washington the best odds out of those three teams you mentioned right now, which I'm going to bring up the third team, the Las Vegas Raiders. Yes, Pete Carroll had a defense in Seattle, but they still had Max Crosby. And I'm not sure that Max Crosby wants to say. If he doesn't want to say, yeah, you can get rid of him and then try for Myles Garrett. But I don't think that Myles Garrett and Max Crosby can exist on the same team only because of the money. So out of those three teams you just mentioned, I think Washington would make the most sense.
Yes. And like I said, I mean, again, the Browns have said that they're not opening up to offers for Mr. Garrett, but like I said, they don't want this to be kind of like a thing where it's because distraction right up until training camp. So it's gonna be interesting to see how this goes. I mean, look, you're getting like one of the best defensive players in the league. He's a reigning defensive player of the year. And yes, he's had some injuries, but again, when he's healthy, he's very productive. So look, he's probably tired of losing, especially after what happened last year. And but it's gonna be interesting. Like I said, a lot could happen between now and whenever the new league year starts. So like he has over 100. He has 100 career sacks for his. He had 100 career sacks for his 29th birthday. A couple of months ago, and he was named Defensive Player of the Year, of course, last year. He had 14 sacks this past season, ranked second in NFL. So this guy's still very productive. So he is just reaching his peak, and I don't blame him for wanting to kind of like, hey, you know what? I want to go someplace where I have a chance to win a title, and I can't say I blame him.
Yes, like I said, Washington's the better odds, and of course, we worry about the Bears here in Chicago. At least with the Bears, you have a franchise quarterback in Caleb Williams. You do have a defense that's on the rise, even though they did take a step back during that ugly 10-game losing streak this past year. He could definitely be a difference maker. And if they could work out a deal where Cleveland can pay some of their money, if that option is on the table, you don't have to pay that much for him. So if you're the Bears, you're in a perfect position. Like you said, they are in competition with these other teams. Like I said, realistically, Washington's a possibility. If you're Buffalo, I don't know what their salary cap situation is, but if it's not that bad, they'll be checking in on him. The Kansas City Chiefs, I'm not going to say they don't need him, but they can figure out a way to give. They're going to be in the mix no matter what happens this coming Sunday in the Super Bowl. So the Bears in a competition with a lot of these teams, and Ryan Poles has to do the right thing for this franchise. He's call up to the front office of the Browns and say, hey, what's realistically is going to take to acquire Mr. Garrett's services? You have to be agreed.
Going to be interesting to see what happens here. To be continued, as we always say. So, quick break here on the other side. We're going to talk some NBA. I don't know what happened in NBA this weekend. Oh, let's see here. The Lakers beat the Warriors. Minnesota won a couple of other game this past weekend. Oh yeah, there were a couple of trades too that happened, and one involving the Bulls. So that is so much more coming next. LaKeena McGee, City Brown, Second City Sports on Sports of Chicago.
You said the Bulls?
I didn't say the Bull. It was the Bulls trade that shook the NBA and the sports world, but it was one prior to that. It was one prior to that shook the sports world. We'll talk about that trade. Oh yeah, that Bulls trade too coming up next. LaKeena McGee, City Brown, Second City Sports on Sports of Chicago. NBA talk coming up right after this.
This year, my mom got me the perfect bag for back to school.
These colorful binders help me stay organized.
These headphones are just what I need for studying.
These new sneakers are just what I needed for the new year.
This jacket is a real must-have.
My parents got me the skateboard I wanted. It's pretty cool.
These scissors really come in handy in art class. these colored pencils too.
These new socks? They can be a real lifesaver.
I finally got my own phone to stay in touch with my mom.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you. Your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov, a public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Hey, this is Dr. J, and I listen to Sean and Maya in the morning.
Welcome back to Second City Sports, Monday edition of the program. The first one for the month of February. You're locked and loaded and live in the 11 color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid. That's LaKeena. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, in the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow my Keena McGee on the Twitter, execute me on the IG.
If you have any questions or comments for us as we dive into some Bulls talking along with the NBA trades that occurred from over the weekend, you can hop in on the comment section at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments to the comment section. LaKeena will get the up on the screen for you.
Up to the NBA we go, as Sid said, and I don't know what happened on Saturday night. Sid, I don't know. I was watching the Gonzaga St. Mary's game. I was falling asleep. Not the game, because the game was actually starting to become exciting. Gonzaga was starting to come back. St. Mary's ended up holding on to win that game, but something happened at about 11:40 Chicago time, and something told me to look through my phone. And sure enough, someone was saying, like, what the Sharkey, of course, who was the NBA insider for ESPN, did he get hacked? So then I looked around to see what the heck people were talking about, and sure enough, it was the Luca Doncic to AD trade. Luca goes to the Lakers. AD goes to Dallas as part of a package. And we'll talk about the rest of the stuff that comes out along with in a second. But if you heard some of the other things that are going on here, Nico Harrison, who's the GM for Dallas, if you heard his comments yesterday, said it was about team culture and everything else. We know AD is not a huge fan of playing center. He rarely plays center. He hasn't done that since he was at Kentucky. Even he didn't play center that much there. And then Luca's dad, in Serbian, showed how miffed he was about the trade. So there are a lot of of things going on here. So where were you when this happened? Because this is really, literally a trade that literally shook the sports world, and literally.
I was watching something on YouTube. I was wrapping up my day of watching some college basketball games, and then, as you said, around close to 11 o'clock Chicago time, my phone buzzed, and I saw that Sham Sharania tweet about LeBron James getting a new teammate, Luca Doncic, and of course Sharania said that this is for real. It's not a hack. And he was traded. Of course, the Lakers about an hour before then wrapped up that game against the New York Knicks, being the Knicks at Madison Square Garden without Anthony Davis. But looking at this trade, LaKeena, I know some people said that the Dallas Mavericks won the trade in the short term. The Lakers will in the long term, and I kind of agree with that to this extent. It gives LeBron James an extra couple years to play with Luka Doncic, help him get set for the future of the Lakers franchise. Now, Rob Pelinka, the Lakers GM, I thought saved his job for now with this trade, but you got to put another piece with Luka Doncic in the next couple of years. They need a point guard. And I know D'Angelo Russell's there right now, but we all know that he's not the future. So Rob Pelinka still has some work to do to pair a good point guard with Luka, while LeBron James is going to be in the Lakers uniform, in my personal opinion, for the next 2 years after this season. So the Lakers are set up and ready to go for the long term. Now, on the flip side for the Dallas Mavericks, they take a step back. Of course, when you lose a star like Luka, you will take a small step back. But LaKeena, what did we talk about a couple of years ago in 2022? The reason why got to the Western Conference Finals that year. They turned to defense, and that's how they got it done before losing to the Golden State Warriors. Last year, they did the same thing on the way to the NBA Finals. Yes, we all know that Luka Doncic has never will be a good defensive player, but they turned the defense on, and they had that trade last year around this time for PJ Washington, and they took off. So looking at this Dallas Mavericks roster right now, LaKeena, they are stacked at the front line, not only with Anthony Davis, but with PJ Washington, Derek Lively, Najee Marshall, who's having a nice year as a role player. And don't forget about former Bull Daniel Gafford, who made a big impact last year too at the trade deadline to the Dallas Mavericks. So the Mavericks are not as bad as people think. Yes, you're going to lose something with Luka Doncic, but they're not going to be as bad as you think. And let's not forget about Klay Thompson and Kyrie Irving. Both those guys will not have to carry the load offensively anymore.
Summarizing the trade, of course, the Lakers get Luka, Maxi Kleber, and Markieff Morris from the Mavs. Dallas acquires AD, Max Christie, and the Lakers 2029 first round pick. And of course, it also involved the Jazz. The Jazz, they receive Jalen Hood-Schifino, who has an expiring contract. The Clippers 2025 second round pick, where they got from another trade, and the Mavs second round pick for this year as well. So, look, I know I saw Harrison's. If you saw Jason Kidd, the head coach, you could tell he was very uncomfortable with some of the comments that Harrison made. And look, I mean, yeah, AD's been an all defensive player a couple of times in his career, and that's fine. But you're going to be dealing with injuries. Of course, he's out with an ab strain right now. And I think that whole thing is really okay. Yeah, the Mavs are going to be, still going to be battling for either, to stay in the play-in game. And that's kind of how I feel about that. Now, as far as Lakers are concerned, when Luka does get back, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see like what's going to be Otis on. I know he's wanting to play LeBron. He said it when he was younger. He'll have his shot, and who else is going to kind of help them out? So, it's going to be interesting to see like how all this kind of flows. But yeah, it's going to get interesting. It's getting interesting out there. In the Western Conference, if you're the Thunder, if you're the Rockets, you're probably thinking, wait, okay, so no one's going to pay, really not going to pay any attention to us now. So, it's going to be kind of interesting to see how that goes once Luka and AD both come back from their various injuries.
Yeah, here's the thing about the Los Angeles Lakers. They did well on their West Coast road. I know they still have one more game on the road before they return home. We'll get to the schedule in just a moment. But looks like the Lakers were finally starting to take off. And of course, then this trade occurs. But like you said, once Luka Doncic gets back, are the Lakers primed for a good run? Can they stay out of number 7? If they can stay out of number 7, that'll really be a big accomplishment for this Lakers team. I think that Dallas can really, I think they have the best chance of staying out of 7, only because, as I mentioned before, they have a more complete team than the Los Angeles Lakers currently. The Lakers have LeBron and Doncic and a bunch of role players. And and that's going to have to change down the road. Whether Rob Pelinka has another move up his sleeve between now and Thursday, we'll see about that. But the Lakers, I think they'll be okay. They may still get in the play-in tournament, but it's not going to be as bleak as we thought coming into the year. On the flip side for Dallas, they're really a stacked team, especially up front. And if their guys can stay healthy, especially when Anthony Davis comes back, I think they could be more dangerous this year in the playoffs than the Lakers do. Now, will they get to the finals, Dallas? I'm not sure. But I think they are more competitive than what people give it credit for. But I want to ask you and our listeners and viewers out there at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago YouTube, do you think the Dallas Mavericks, as currently constituted right now, are they better than the Houston Rockets? Are they better than OKC? And are they better than Memphis?
Well, if they don't play like they did yesterday against the Cavs when they got their butts kicked by 33 points. I mean, I think they were all kind of, a lot of their guys didn't play. Obviously, I know Kyrie didn't play due to illness, but I know Gafford didn't play either because of a ankle injury against his former team. So yeah, I mean, okay, but yeah, I want to see how all these guys mesh first before I make any predictions, especially as far as Dallas is concerned. I'm sure there was a lot of shock, when everyone got to practice. I know Clay said that everyone was shocked when they got to the facility in Cleveland, and when everybody left there, and it was sort of like I think there was definitely a little bit of upheaval there, and it kind of played like it yesterday if you think about it. But PJ Washington, no Kyrie, so Gafford didn't play either, like I said. So yeah, hopefully that's not a sign of what's to come for the Mavs, but. Again, we'll see once everyone kind of meshes together. But as far as the Lakers are concerned, like I said, we'll see how once Luca does get back. Jaden Red's this is gonna be his first big test as head coach. How is he gonna fit Luca into that whole style of offense, especially with LeBron? So will there be enough balls to go around there? We shall see.
All right, and let's turn it over to the Chicago Bulls side of things, as they were part of a 3-team trade with the Sacramento Kings and the San Antonio Spurs. De'Aaron Fox, of course, was traded from the Kings to the San Antonio Spurs, joining Victor Wembanyama. And, of course, to complete that 3-team deal, the Chicago Bulls sent Zach LaVine in flight number 8 packet to the Sacramento Kings in exchange for their own 2025 protected first-round pick, Kevin Huerter, Zach Collins, and a couple other players. LaKeena, the one good thing that really comes out of this trade, actually a couple things. One, the Bulls will save $10 million under the salary cap with Zach's contract off the books now. And number two, they keep their own pick. And as we talked about a little bit before the show, and we talked about this throughout the summer and right before the season started, that the Bulls strategically were doing the right thing to see what they can give a Zach LaVine, but they overestimated the value of Zach LaVine. As we said over the summer, where he was not traded, I'm talking about Zach LaVine, the league told you what his value was. Well, the Bulls' value was actually very different and delusional than from what the rest of the NBA was saying. With this trade yesterday, the league told you what Zach LaVine's true value is worth. Now, as I said all along, and I'll say it again, Zach LaVine, is he an all-star? Yes. A superstar? No. The Bulls had to pay him as a superstar at the time to get some continuity in that organization and let AK and Mark Eversley cook. And when they acquired Vucevic and DeMar DeRozan and Lonzo Ball a few years ago, I get it from a business aspect, but down the road, they were paying for it, and they were lucky to get Zach LaVine off the books, but he wasn't worth as much as you thought, Chicago Bulls manager. So this trade, I'm not upset, but at the same time, this is what he was worth. And this was the best deal. You had to take it. The Bulls got away with one, but it was a little bit too late. But they had to do it.
Yeah, I find it funny that because I'm seeing various people saying that, well, I'm boycotting the Bulls. Well, look, chances are you weren't watching the Bulls games anyway because it's on CHSN. But unless you have DirecTV and DirecTV stream,
fake outrage, fake anger.
Yeah, right, exactly. You gotta let Bulls Twitter X. But I mean, look, De'Aaron Fox, he wanted to go to San Antonio. He got his wish. The Kings got 3 first-round picks and 3 second-round picks. sorry, kids, that's just how it kind of blows out. The Kings get LaVine. Of course, they reunite him with DeMar, so that should be they meshed well together for those 3 years they were together here in Chicago. Now, like I said, the Bulls get that first round pick back from San Antonio, which is currently at number 9 as we're recording this. Look, you get a couple expiring contracts and Kevin Huerter from the Kings and Trey Jones and Zach Collins. So, okay, you get a couple of expiring contracts. Yippee. The Spurs get an expiring contract and Jordan McLaughlin. Okay. But yeah, I mean, look, I know people were saying, oh my God, how horrible. I mean, look, yes, the Bulls overvalue LaVine. They probably should have traded him over the offseason, perhaps even last season. But again, I just think that, people look, it's just one of those things where it's like they had to do something, and look exactly what they did. They actually got the best value that they could get. Like I said, they got their trade, their first round pick back from the trade. They also get Kevin Huerter. We'll see. I mean, I know that's the kind of player that they probably want to try and play around. And Trey Jones is definitely like the kind of scrappy point guard that I'm sure Bulls fans will like. So as Zach Collins, he's playing on an expiring contract too. So it's fine. I mean, look, I'm not gonna like freak out like, oh my God, they should have gotten more. I mean, this is the best that they were gonna get. So look, instead of going to like Macy's, they end up going to Wayfair, which they got some nice stuff at Wayfair. So hey, whatever.
You say they went to Kroger's instead of Jules, huh? Jules.
Apparently.
Now, I asked this question on Friday, I believe, and I'll ask you here because this will be our last show until Friday, where the trade deadline will be over by then. The trade deadline is this coming Thursday at 2 p.m. Central Standard Time for the NBA. Who will be the next one to go? There's a list of about 4 names, but I'll give the obvious 2 names that comes to mind: Nikolai Vucevic and Lonzo Ball. Will one or both of them will one or both be gone by Thursday in your estimation?
I think Vooch will be gone. Lonzo, if you can get him for like a high second rounder, that's probably the best you're gonna get. But yeah, I think Vooch, as much as I hate to, and I love Vooch here, but yeah, Vooch, he wants to play for a contender, and I don't blame him. So yeah, Vooch might be going out west. I know there are a couple of teams. I heard the Clippers for Vooch. I know a couple other teams out west as well might want his services. So I think he's going to be gone.
And before I give my answer, Mark Stein, longtime NBA writer, I know he's doing columns on his Substack page now. He's based out of Dallas, longtime ESPNer. He said that over the weekend, the Warriors had serious talks with the Chicago Bulls in acquiring both Zach LaVine and Nikolai Vucevic in the same deal, but the talks broke down, so the Warriors chose to move on. I think Vucevic would be the next guy to go. LaKeena, you can get something for him. He's getting older now. There's about 4 or 5 teams that can really use his services. Lonzo Ball, the same thing. I think the Pistons could use his services. Definitely the LA Clippers could use his services. A couple of the teams as well. But I want to focus in on our guys, Big Dave Watson and Matt Peck from CHGO Bulls said on their emergency pod last night. The Bulls have a couple of veterans that you can get something for. Torrey Craig and Javon Carter. Remember last year, LaKeena, I said Javon Carter, he had some nice moments, but it was kind of a disappointing year. This year, he's barely played at all. I know Torrey Craig has been dealing with some injuries, too, in his time here over a year plus. But should the Bulls do the right thing and release both those guys? Because both those guys will be picked up just like that for a veteran playoff team.
Yeah, they got to clear 2 roster spots in order to make salary. So yeah, they might be, and look, they just got these guys a couple years ago, so they might be on their way out. So yeah, I can see one or both those guys being released just because they have to fit the roster spots with the 3 guys that got from the trade.
Yeah, and I'll play it smart here that I think Nikolai Vucevic will be gone by the time we get back on air here on Friday. Which team is that? I don't know. Maybe the Warriors still could work something out with the Bulls now since Zach's gone. I don't know, but I think Vucevic will be the safe pick for me. He'll be the next one to go between now and Thursday at 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. You're listening to Second City of Chicago's Nick about that show yesterday, Zach 119 at the Little Caesars Arena in downtown Detroit. Your guy, Cade Cunningham, first-time All-Star, scored 22 points and dished out 15 assists.
Yeah, unfortunately, I mean, the Bulls were right there in that game yesterday, but unfortunately, that it was too much Kate Cunningham, and of course no Zach. Now you definitely have no Zach. So unfortunately for the Bulls, not a good way to on that road trip. They come back tomorrow and they face Miami. So that's going to be an interesting matchup because they're having their own issues. We'll get to that in a second here, but unfortunately, but the Pistons, just too much for the Bulls, and look, they're showing one of the now one of the top teams in the East right now, and Cunningham's one of the main reasons why. The Raptors upset the Clippers 115-108. RJ Barrett had 20 points there. Boston beat the Sixers 118-110, I should say, and Memphis came back and they beat Milwaukee. Jaren Jackson Jr. had 37 points, season high for him in that game to cap off yesterday's games.
Yeah, going back to the Bulls game for just a second, LaKeena. The Bulls had 28 assists, but they had 20 turnovers, and you're not going to win many games in the NBA with 20 turnovers. I know they shot the ball at a 36% clip from three, and they shot the ball decent, but you got to take care of the basketball. You got to be stronger defensively, and especially now with Zach LaVine gone. They got to tighten up those areas. How will they do that? I don't know, but you got to take care of the basketball, and you got to play better defense, especially within the interior.
Yeah, we know that's been a problem for the Bulls the last few years, unfortunately.
Yes.
Going to Saturday's games real quick before we get into the schedule for this week. Portland beat Phoenix 127-108. DeAndre Ayton had 24 points. And could KD be on the move? This is according to Jake Fisher. He says that the Suns are fielding offers for the Suns. The Suns are fielding offers for KD. So I don't know if we're going to be able to find anybody that will take, he's not making a lot of money. I'm talking about KD, but he's going to want to go to a place where he wants to contend. And I don't think there's going to be a lot of room in various rosters, whether it's the East or the West.
Especially with this new CBA, it's tighter on the salary restrictions and how teams can maneuver around the system. So, like you said, good luck. I know Phoenix has been a bigger disappointment this year than they were last year, even though they got to the playoffs and got beat by the Timberwolves. But they've been a bigger disappointment this year, and it's time to shake it up here. And like you said, is they can find someone for Kevin Durant, good luck. But I don't think they will between now and Thursday. That's just me.
Bam had 30 as Miami edged out the Spurs. The Lakers are about that. 33 points for LeBron as the Lakers beat the Knicks in Saturday night. ABC game of the week. OKC just hammers Sacramento. That might have triggered that trade here. Fox and his swan song in Sacramento had 20 points there. 41 for Aaron Wiggins, not Andrew. Aaron Wiggins, no relation to Andrew Wiggins. The Wizards pulled off a mild upset, edge out the T-Wolves. Kyle Kuzma had 31 points there. Brooklyn beat Houston. Denver edge out Charlotte. Jokic had 28 points there. Utah beat Orlando, and the Pacers held off the Hawks. If you took the over on that one, you had a nice start to your Saturday night.
Yeah, quietly, the Pacers trying to making their way back into the playoff picture in the Eastern Conference after surprising everyone with their Eastern Conference Finals appearance a year ago.
Yep. So we got a few more minutes, so I guess we'll do Friday's games real quick. Negative room there. The Clippers, no trouble with Charlotte. Detroit by 15, 40 points for Kane Cunningham as they beat Dallas. Denver beat Philadelphia 31 points for Jamal Murray. That's despite a career high Tyrese Maxey 42. The Bulls did beat the Raptors 25 points for Kobe White. So not all bad for this weekend for the Bulls there. Boston held off the Pelicans. San Antonio beat Milwaukee. No, I'm not repeating myself. They did play earlier in the weekend. Victor Wembanyama had 30 points there. And Phoenix beat Golden State behind 31 for Devin Booker.
Yep. As we see right now, some of the teams decided to separate themselves from the rest of the pack as far as 1 through 6 in the playing tournament teams 7 through 10. So we started to see some things shake up here a little bit amidst some of the trade rumors right now between now and Thursday. So we started to see some separation a little bit. But LaKeena, before we get to the schedule for this week, do you see any other? We had back-to-back moves. I doubt if we see another big blockbuster move, but do you think we'll see another, I'll call it a mid-major move between now and Thursday, minus the Chicago Bulls?
Yeah, I mean, unless the Heat do what Jimmy Butler wants, and they trade him someplace, I don't see anything. There might be some minor trades here and minor trades here and there. Maybe a couple of role guys might get moved, but I can't see AD getting moved because, like you said, that contract that's not gonna, no one's gonna want to take that contract. Same thing with Jimmy Butler. I mean, that's really gonna be a headache for the rest of the season. So yeah, there might be a little like minor things here and there, but yeah, that I don't see any bigger trades. What about you?
I don't think so either. I think we'll see some more moves, but I don't think we'll see any other major moves unless it involves Jimmy Butler. And the news about Jimmy Butler over the weekend, the Warriors and the Heat were in trade discussion talks. The people from the Warriors camp asked Jimmy Butler will he sign a contract extension if he feels accepted the trade to the Warriors. Jimmy Butler said no, and the talks were immediately ceased. So Jimmy Butler is currently a member of the Miami Heat right now. We'll see what happens on Thursday, but if Jimmy Butler doesn't get moved, I think we'll see some minor moves or some difference makers moves as far as playoff contenders and picking up those guys that'll be difference makers. But do I see any more superstars possibly getting traded? Maybe Jimmy Butler, probably not. Outside of Jimmy Butler, probably not.
Mm. All right, we'll keep you guys updated. Any big trades? We'll talk about any trades and all trades on Friday. I'm sure it's going to be a frenzy within the next couple of days. Now going to the weekend this week, I should say, for the schedule for the NBA. Tonight's games, you got the Wizards and the Hornets at 6. You got Atlanta and Detroit. The NBA TV, the first game of the NBA TV doubleheader should be a good one. You got Houston and the Knicks. San Antonio and Memphis, Sacramento and Minnesota. We'll see. I don't know if Zach. Yeah, Zach's probably still gone, so we probably won't see him in that game. Milwaukee and OKC. We got the Pelicans and Denver. Indiana, they're on a little bit of a roll. They continue their West Coast trip against Utah. Orlando, they start their West Coast trip against Golden State at 9 o'clock. That's going to be the second game of the NBA TV doubleheader. And Phoenix, with or without KD, they face Portland. They'll try to get their revenge after what happened on Friday at 9 o'clock. No, I'm not repeating myself. This is actually another game for Phoenix and Portland at 9 tonight.
Your schedule for Tuesday tomorrow are as follows. Dallas will travel to Philadelphia to take on the 76ers. Boston will face the Cleveland Cavaliers. That's the first game of the TNT Tuesday night doubleheader. That's at 6:30 Central Standard Time. Other games that will be on the schedule for Tuesday. Houston will continue their road trip in New York. They'll face Brooklyn. The New York Knicks will face the Toronto Raptors. The Miami Heat will travel to Chicago to take on the Bulls. The second game of the Tuesday night TNT doubleheader. The Los Angeles Lakers will play in the Truett Dome for the last time this season against the LA Clippers. And the Indiana Pacers will start their West Coast road trip. They will play the Portland Trail Blazers. That's your schedule for Tuesday.
Hump Day Wednesday, right before the trade deadline. You got Milwaukee and Charlotte at 6. You got Cleveland and Detroit at 6. That should be a fun one there. San Antonio and Atlanta. That's the first game of the ESPN Wednesday doubleheader. Wizards and Nets at 6:30. Miami and Philadelphia, 2 disappointing teams at 6:30. Memphis and Toronto at 6:30. The Bulls are on the road as they face Minnesota, who may not be in a very good mood after what happened yesterday. Golden State and Utah. Denver hosts New Orleans. And I guess you could say this would have been a good one earlier in the season, but maybe not now. You got Phoenix and OKC at 8:30 on ESPN. That's going to be the second game, that doubleheader on Wednesday. And Orlando and Sacramento. We'll see if Zach's back for that game.
Your schedule for Thursday trade deadline day are as follows. The Dallas Mavericks will travel to Boston to take on the Celtics in a rematch of last year's finals. That's the first game of the TNT Thursday night doubleheader. That's at 6:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. Other games are as follows. For Thursday, Houston at Minnesota. Orlando will continue their West Coast road trip at Denver. Golden State visits Los Angeles Lakers at 9 p.m., the second game of the TNT Thursday night doubleheader. Sacramento will continue their road trip at Portland, and Indiana will continue their West Coast road trip. They'll face the Clippers, and that's your schedule for Thursday.
All right, folks. Hour number 1 in the books. Hour number 2 coming up here on Second City Sports on Sports on Chicago. Our old friend from WGNTV's Kaitlin Sharkey. She is on deck, and she'll join us about that trade that happened. Well, a couple of trades that happened in the NBA. The Bears coaching changes. The Blackhawks. What the hell is going on with them? And so much more. LaKeena, McGee, Sidney Brown, Second City Sports on Sports on Chicago. K Shark coming up right after this.
know, I'm scared. I mean, you're so...
Do you know that you're in my lane? No, not at all. Are you not paying attention? Are you texting? I was just checking in with my mom. I was telling her that I thought we'd be home by 6. It's okay. There's enough time. Just pay attention. I'm not even halfway through my text. There's no way. I'm not even going to look up. My babies are in the car. You have to pay attention. It's just supposed to be a quick text. I'm so sorry.
Hi, I'm Tom Brady, the director of DODEA. September is National Suicide Prevention and Awareness Month. The simple act of reaching out and caring for those in our communities is something we all can do. Just being there for someone you care about can be a tremendous first step in getting them access to confidential resources and support that they need. It only takes one person and one small act and 1 minute to make a difference. Let's make a difference.
Many will hear the calling. Few will earn the title. United States Marine. The few, the proud, the Marines.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of Second City Sports, the Monday edition, the first one for the month of February. You're locked and loaded and live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid, that's LaKeena. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow McGee on the Twitter, X, and the IG. And if you have questions for one of our favorites, we're glad we finally got her back on the show. You can catch us. You can do it right here on Sports Chicago's Facebook and YouTube channels.
And let's not waste any more time. LaKeena, she's one of our favorites, joining the show from WGNTV in Chicago. You can catch her on GN Sports tonight. Here's our homegirl, Miss, the lovely and talented Miss Kaitlin Sharkey. Kaitlin, welcome back.
Hey guys, it's so good to see you guys and talk to you. Sorry it's been a long time, but I'm back.
No, look, all's forgiven. You've been busy, so no worries.
Never a dull moment here.
Right, okay, right. Let's talk about one of those not so dull moments. I mean, where were you when that okay. Let's start a little small here, and then we'll go bigger. The Zach trade, be a trade to the Kings, reunited with DeMar. I know you're not surprised by that. What's your opinion about this trade, and do you think the Bulls are done?
I don't think the Bulls are done, and I'm not surprised by it. I think it's underwhelming, but I think that just kind of sums up where the Bulls are as an organization right now. We were putting the rundown together for GN Sports last night, and we were talking about the other big trade in the NBA, and then we had to switch the whole rundown of the show because of the trade sending Zach to the Kings to reunite with DeMar. Obviously, we knew the Bulls have been shopping LaVine for a while. It was unfortunate last season that he got injured. He couldn't play those couple final months of the season. That hurt his trade value going into the summer. But then it's just like you look at the return and you're like, okay, you're getting a bunch of guys, not even a bunch, a couple guys that aren't going to really make an impact here in Chicago. You're getting your own pick back for Zach LaVine, for an all-star, for someone who's been kind of the core of this Bulls team. But that's kind of the corner that they back themselves into. I think if there's any promise, it's that the Bulls front office, AK and company, have picked a direction, because I feel like for the last couple seasons, we're like, are you doing a rebuild? Are you not doing a rebuild? If you're doing a rebuild, you've got to get rid of guys like LaVine and Vooch and see what kind of draft capital you can get back. So I think they're not done. I mean, I feel like everyone outside of Matas Buzelis is fair game and could be out of that Bulls locker room by Thursday at the deadline. So it'll be interesting to see what's going to come of it. Zach was a pro. I loved covering him with the Bulls. And they're just going to be a really tough watch, guys. They're going to be a really tough watch here coming up.
Yeah, that's if you get them with a clear antenna, but that situation is a whole nother issue. But I want to ask you regarding the Bulls, who's the next one in your opinion to go? Is it Nikolai Vucevic? Is it Lonzo Ball? Or could it be a third person? And maybe, I'm just throwing out there, maybe Ayo Dosunmu. In your opinion, who's the next one to go between now and Thursday?
I wouldn't be surprised if Vooch goes. I think them bringing Collins in, they have now someone that can play center. But what's your return? What are you going to get for Vooch? They've been trying to shop Vooch as well. So Vooch, I wouldn't be surprised if Kobe White garnered some interest. I think that would be kind of a shame if they moved on from Kobe White. But again, they created this situation in Chicago where it's like, you got to give up something to at least try to get back into the thick of things. It just feels like they're kind of late on the whole rebuild, but they're going to be deep in it now. So I think it's anyone's fair game. Vooch, I think, could go yet. And then maybe even a Kobe White or Alonzo Ball. But you would hate to see that too after all of the rehab Lonzo's done and then off he goes.
Yeah, it would suck. But yeah, so the Bulls play, do you think, like you said, I mean, the full-on rebuild and such. So where do you think the Bulls go from here? I mean, they're right there at the 10th spot in for the play in the East. So what do you think happens in the rest of the season, whether or not they do any more trades?
I think it's going to go downhill, and they're going to hope for the best when it comes to the lottery. I think it's just especially if they're going to keep trading off pieces, and now they're bringing these, other role players and not even really impact players here to Chicago. It's not going to be pretty basketball. Not that it's been great basketball to watch this season or last season. They've been, like you said, they're 10th spot, like they're outside looking in at this point. So they're just, and I know the word rebuild is like such a triggering word in Chicago sports right now, because it felt like at one point everybody was rebuilding. But I think that's just unfortunately the state of the Bulls right now. So we'll see how many more moves AK is able to pull off before Thursday, but at least he did something. I know fans were like, all right, he's not going to do anything. Another trade deadline is going to come and go. So unfortunately, it's probably going to hurt to watch for a while.
Sid?
If the nosedive continues, how does Billy Donovan, the head coach, survive this, or does he survive this at all at the end of the year?
I think Billy Donovan's a great head coach. I think he's been in a situation and he's very honest. And I think, I was there a couple of weeks ago at the United Center for one of his post-game interviews, and it was one of their bad games. I don't remember even who they lost to, but it was like rock bottom. And he was talking about, like, listen, this is the roster that I have to deal with. If guys aren't performing, I appreciated that he did the switch up with Patrick Williams coming off the bench. I think that's been something. I think Billy Donovan's a good coach. I think he's safe in his situation because, again, this isn't a matter of coaching, and it's not a matter of guys not playing up to their full potential. I think, guys like Vooch and LaVine, and then when you shipped off DeMar, I think when Billy came in, that was what he was hoping he was getting, big three and then some role players on the team, and none of that panned out like he wanted to. But I don't think it was due to Billy's coaching. So I would be shocked if he's no longer the head coach of the Bulls at the end of the season.
All right, let's go to another topic, because all this Bulls talk is depressing me. depressing all of us, I'm sure. Of course, the Bear. Let's switch gears. Talk to the Bear. You're right there in the locker room, Kaitlin, for most, if not all, the season, and of course, Ben Johnson, he's putting the staff together. You got Dennis Allen. They just hired a new O-line coach, and then Rasher. I think that's I don't know how you say his name, but what do you think of the coaching staff of the Bears? Can this team, kind of like make the, now you got to, match on the field too. It seems like they got a really good staff they put together.
Yeah, I think Ben Johnson's done a really good job of obviously assembling his staff, but also the way that he's put it together. So it's kind of like an old school meets new school in a lot of aspects. I feel like he's brought in plenty of coaches, including and coordinators, Dennis Allen, that he can lean on when it comes to head coaching experience and just years of coaching in the NFL. So you want that, right? That's such a valuable asset to have coaches come in on your staff who have been through it all, seen it all, can be a sounding board, can help you prepare, because this is going to be a big deal and a big difference for Ben Johnson going from OC to head coach of now the Chicago Bears, this storied franchise. And I think he's also done a good job of bringing in the younger coaching talent, like a Declan Doyle. I know everyone's like 28, like how is he going to be the offensive coordinator? He's going to be Ben Johnson's workhorse. That's what he's going to be, because this is Ben Johnson's offense. He's going to call the plays. Declan Doyle is going to be reviewing film. He's going to be the type of coach that sleeps at Hallis Hall, who's going to do all the work that Ben Johnson will not be able to get to because he's being a head coach. So I think he did a good job of bringing in some young, fresh faces, but also bringing in guys like Eric Benenemy with like actual experience in position coaches, because I think the position coaches last year were lacking. I mean, we could say coaches across the board last season for the Bears were lacking a little bit, but I think from a position coach standpoint, I mean, to bring in Antoine Randall and just all the names that he's brought in, like real, legit, no nonsense, accountability driven coaches is what the Bears have been missing. So I appreciate Ben Johnson bringing in a little bit of the new and a little bit of the old experienced coaches.
Yep. Sid?
And speaking of the defense, Kaitlin, of course, with new DC Dennis Allen, looks like he's going to run a 4-3 instead of a 3-4. Do you see any surprise cuts coming up this offseason between now and at the start of the new league year free agency coming up next month?
I think it's going to be a more intriguing free agency for the Bears, because outside of the few core players, and we know who they are on offense and defense specifically, I feel like the defensive core is in the secondary for the Bears. It's not anywhere else. I mean, I know you pay Montez Sweat a lot of money, so he's there. You got Montez Sweat, but outside of that, and Tremaine Edmonds, who's also one of the highest paid linebackers in the NFL, but they don't seem like, okay, that's who I'm building my defense around. So I feel like it's fair game for anyone at this point. The defense free agency will be interesting. I know everyone's thrown around Myles Garrett's name today, and I think that would be obviously amazing for the Bears, but the Bears have bigger concerns up front. And I think that has just been it's been an issue, not even last season, but for seasons, right? Like you can get all these playmakers, you can get all of these superstars, you can bring in Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett is not going to protect Caleb Williams. So that O-line completely needs to be reworked. They need a strong, dependable center at least, and then go out there from the rest. So to me, the free agency and even the draft, everything has to be approached up front. And I would like to believe that Ryan Poles knows that. We all see it. We understand how poorly it went last season. Even missing Andrew Billings up front, like they lost every battle in the trenches last season. So as free agency approaches, I think that's who you got to target. And hopefully a lot of good, talented players are still able to be acquired by the Bears.
Talking to our girl from WGNTV's Kaitlin Sharkey, joining us here on Second City Sports on Sports Chicago. LaKeena, McGee, Sidney Brown with you. Sticking with the Bears, Kaitlin, the Bears have 9 picks. They've got 9 picks during the draft, and do you see them making any big trades? Should they pursue if they pursue Garrett? Do you think they may have to trade a couple of those picks, or maybe do they go O-line in the top 10? I know I've heard even some Bears fans say Ashton Dente from Boise State, which I don't know if that's a good idea. you pick a running back that high. So what do you think the Bears do in a couple of months in the draft?
I know Saquon Barkley has reset the entire running back conversation and how important he is to a team, but I don't know if the Bears should be taking those kind of picks early on in the draft. I think that's kind of a position you can fill elsewhere. But when I think about their draft capital, obviously Ryan Poles should make a call to Cleveland. I know Cleveland said we're not trading Myles Garrett, but they can be convinced with the right price. I don't think he should sell the farm and give away all of the picks and jeopardize the team acquiring good O-line talent for this team. But you should certainly make a call and see what you can do, and I'm sure he will. Him and a million other GMs across the NFL. But I think the O-line has to be a priority. The O-line, D-line, it worries me a little bit because I'm not sure how well his Ryan Poles picks in the O-line and D-line have gone in the last couple of years. So then you start to worry like, okay, well, if you're going to use the draft capital, it better be hopefully the right one with a lot of potential, but they need immediate impact players, and especially up front. So I feel like he could do some wheeling and dealing. He's obviously not in the position he was last year to hear all the entertaining phone calls and things that he had with the number 1 overall pick, but still in a good position. And we'll see if he does anything crazy, but I don't foresee, but I also don't feel like anyone is really safe on that team. Like anything could happen.
Sid?
For the foreseeable future in the next 3 or 4 years, we all know that GM Ryan Poles has 1 year left on his contract. Do you think the Bears are playing it smart here to make the playoffs next year before giving him an extension, or do you think they should give him an extension right now?
No, I think you got to wait and see. And I think obviously he made the perfect hire according to everybody, and he made a great hire, and it was a different. I feel like they've shifted a little bit of how they go about things and how they go about business. And obviously Kevin Warren's influence plays a large part in that, but Ryan Poles as well, kind of accepting what hasn't worked in his last couple of years as GM, because it hasn't been great. So I think they're in the right attitude of if this is a great season for the Bears, they make the playoffs, the coaching is outstanding, like he makes the right draft picks and free agent dealings and all of these things, then yeah, give him an extension. He aligns with his new head coach and boom, everything is great in Chicago. But to give him one before this season, I think is not wise, because I'm a big fan of Ryan Poles, but I think it's clear to see where Ryan Poles has missed a few times. And this coaching hire, I'm glad that the Bears were able to get in a guy like Ben Johnson. He was the Cinderella hire. Everyone wanted him, like he was the belle of the ball, and hopefully it works out for the Bears. And I think Ryan Poles can maybe breathe a little bit easier right now, but I think he also knows what's ahead in free agency, the draft, and the actual results, because we were all talking last season at this time, like the expectations are so high, and then it was a huge disappointment. So if that happens again, I think Ryan Poles is in jeopardy.
Now you've had interviews with Caleb Williams, throughout the season at various points. How do you think he feels about this new direction and that things looking up for the Bears, perhaps?
I think he's excited. I think for Caleb more than anything, he's likely, if I'm Caleb Williams and based on my conversations with him and just everything he's gone through his rookie season, I'm going into year 2 like, okay, I know what I need to work on. I got to hone in. I got to be better as a quarterback. But also you're just hoping things are less chaotic. Like of all the things he's got to worry about, like, do I have enough weapons, like offensive line? For him, I'm sure it's like, can we make it through the season without the wheels falling off? Like, can we make it through the season without a change at OC and a change at head coach? And then all of these conversations and a 10-game losing streak. Like, can we just make it through the season? Like calm, cool, collected, win the games they're supposed to win. And I mean, looking at their road schedule, it's not going to be easy, but just do the things that they're supposed to do. So if I'm Caleb Williams, just calm is probably what he wants in year 2. A head coach that's actually going to coach him, hold him to a high standard, hold him to a higher standard than I think he initially thought the NFL and being a quarterback is. Because to me, the quarterback has to be the hardest working guy in the building, because you are the nucleus of the team, especially that offense. So someone that's going to coach him and kind of drill that point home, like, listen, that you can be as good as you want or as bad as you want here in Chicago. And if they've done everything to build around him and now get this entire new coaching staff in, it's really up to him to take it and kind of make a big jump in year 2. Because while I thought his rookie season was okay, it wasn't great by any means.
Sid?
Give us a letter grade for rookie wide receiver Roman Dunze out of Washington. Of course, he was playing behind Keenan Allen. Of course, playing next to DJ Moore. Give us a letter grade of what you thought of Roman Dunze's rookie season.
I would say Rome's rookie season, I'm going to go B-. I think he was really impressive in his rookie season. I feel like he came in as one of the most prepared rookies I've seen in a while, even based on like going back to the offseason and rookie mini camp and OTAs and training camp. Like Rome was polished. Rome came in ready to be an NFL wide receiver. So that lifted his grade up a bit. Of course, he had a few rookie moments, a couple drops, a couple miscommunications, but who didn't on that offense this last year? So I think he did a really good job, and I'm excited. I mean, if you're looking at most exciting rookies to watch going in from year 1 to year 2, Rome Odunze is at the top of the list because what he was able to do already in year 1 was really impressive, and he just gets it. Rome's a guy that just gets it, and as much as he can continue to soak in from DJ Moore, whether or not Keenan Allen's still in that wide receiver room or not, if they bring in another veteran receiver, whatever direction they go with that room, as long as he continues to be a sponge and grow with Caleb, he has the luxury of having, a quarterback on the same level as he is. So I think it's going to be fun to watch, but B- for Rome.
Oh, nice. Now, I'm going to bring down the move for just a second, Kaitlin. The Blackhawks, I know they scored against the Panthers within the first, 6 seconds, but then they ended up losing the game. They were the first team to do that. So what the heck's going on with the Blackhawks? I mean, Sid and I are big hockey fans, and it's not looking good. They look worse than the Bulls at this point, and I'm getting a little bit miffed here.
Yeah, I mean, we got to go back to that word we don't want to talk about, rebuild, and they're deep in it. Like, they're in the trenches of a rebuild right now, and Kyle Davidson was pretty frank. I mean, listen, they're not ruling out getting any big name acquisitions coming in for next season, but I think it was just a bad mixture of the vets that they thought they had on the team would make more of an impact, and then they didn't. And that was disappointing. Connor Bedard kind of went through this sophomore slump, and I say slump by Connor Bedard standards, right? Coming off being rookie of the year. So I think him and just the whole putting it all together just didn't work. And there's not even encouraging signs or players that you're like, oh, this could be something outside of Connor Bedard. So if I'm Kyle Davidson, like he said, I knew we wouldn't be that competitive, but he's I didn't think we'd be dead last. So they've just been a frustrating watch. And then to fire your coach again mid-season, it's just not the way you want to go about things. And I understand, again, rebuilds aren't fun. They're not entertaining. They're brutal, right? Any team, any sport that goes through them, they're going to be tough. But I think it just felt like the Blackhawks didn't even take a step in their rebuild this year. It was kind of wait, you got to move forward a little bit. Otherwise, we're not building anything. We're just sitting here in bad hockey. So, we'll see what they're able to do in free agency, and we'll see what Connor Bedard's able to do, because the last couple of interviews with Connor, you see him, he's looking pretty down. And I get that that's a hard thing to do for a very young, talented player, but they're brutal.
Sid.
Last moment or two with Kaitlin Sharkey from WGNTV right here on Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid LaKeena here with you. Kaitlin, let's go to baseball. I'll get to my team in just a moment, but I'll ask you about the Cubs. They acquired Kyle Tucker and Ryan Presley from the Astros this offseason. There are in the rumors, according to some reports, acquiring Daily Cease from the San Diego Padres. Is the NL Central the Cubs division to lose, or do they still have more work to do?
I think the Cubs are probably in the best position, especially of all the Chicago sports teams. And I know that's not a very high standard these days, but I do feel like the Cubs they've done enough. Hopefully, I think they could still do some more. We'll see how the roster comes together after spring training, but I think they're in a great position. And we'll see how, we thought that was the case last year as well. I hope, again, they they need guys to exceed expectations. They need guys to have at least one or two guys to be like, wow, he's really having a great year. And we'll see what this pitching staff can do as well. So I'm high on the Cubs this season just because my optimistic brain is like, we got to have something here in Chicago, and especially when it comes to baseball. Sid, I know there's not going to be a lot of optimism on the other side of town. So for our sake, I hope the Cubs, they've made the right moves. We'll see if they continue to, and then we'll see what that spring training roster post-spring training looks like.
And fingers crossed they get Alex Bregman.
Yes.
Maybe they're in the running. So yeah, let's hope they can get him now. Last question for me, Kaitlin. College hoops, we're right in the thick of it. 6 weeks before Selection Sunday, Illinois got a big win against Ohio State after losing a couple in a row. What do you think the ceiling is for Illinois? I mean, they play like, it's key to go to a Final Four, but then on the other hand, other games, especially against Maryland and USC, they play like a team that could lose before the second week. So where do you think Illinois is at this point of the season?
They're a tough team to figure out, and I guess like obviously Yakachonis has been great for them, and Ivisic when he's been healthy, and now that he's back, it'll be certainly helpful for the Illini, but they have a really strong freshman core, and I think that's been fun to watch. So, but also when you're relying and you're leaning on freshman talent, you also don't know what you're going to get in and night out. So when you're talking about making Final Four runs or things like that, it's just like, I don't know if Illinois has it in them this year. I could see them getting bounced early. They've taken some bad losses, but I think that there's promise there, and the freshmen that they have, I mean, the sky's the limit if they stay put and everything works out for them. But it's just a little bit too inconsistent for me to put any real faith or confidence in the Illini right now.
Yep. Sid?
Okay. Last question from me, Kaitlin, regarding the White Sox. The only thing that's good for them this year is the celebration of the 20th anniversary of the 05 team, and of course the 125th anniversary of the White Sox franchise in general. Of course, the promotion schedule is off the chain this year, but you're a friend of the show, and respectfully, I want to ask you for a request, if you have some extra time between now and Bears training camp. I work with a couple of White Sox fan groups called the Chicago Sports Bums in the Section 108 guys and gals. They throw a tailgate at Sox Park once a month, of course on opening day on March 27th, but after that it's the last Saturday of each month throughout the season. And if you have any extra time between now and training camp, we would like to have you down there at a tailgate this year at Sox Park, so at Lot B. So if you have any free time, come on down. I know the product on the field is not going to be great, but at least we throw down some great tailgates. So we'd like to invite you to a tailgate on the South Side before training camp.
I would love that. I've never, I don't get to tailgate ever, and nor have I in the last decade plus of doing this job, because I'm always working these games. So I would love to come tailgate. I actually love going to Sox games. I love the park. I think it's just like, I don't know. I just like the vibe there. Obviously, yes, I know the product hasn't been great, but I would love to stop by a tailgate one Saturday. I'm off most Saturdays, so if I'm not traveling, I'm around. So I will definitely come and hang out with you guys and watch some White Sox baseball, hopefully on a good promo night.
Well, since all this gets going,
okay,
promo night.
I'll tell the group, and
Perfect.
hopefully we'll have you down there this year.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
Yeah.
That'll be fun.
All right, WGNTV's Kaitlin Sharkey joining us here on.
All right, LaKeena, close us out.
Yeah, that was WGNTV's Kaitlin Sharkey joining us here on Second City Sports on Sports in Chicago. Kaitlin, so thank you so much for joining us today. Don't be a stranger. My goodness, I think it's been over a year since you last came on. You've been busy. You've been busy. Well, we forgive you. We've been busy. So where can we find you on social media and on WGN TV?
Yes, at K-Rose Sharkey, and then at GN Sports. We have our own GN Sports accounts as well. But I'm sorry it's been so long. I missed you guys. Great to talk with you. You guys are the best. So I'll see you soon.
All right. Tell JP, Chris, and Jay Fry we said what's up. We can have them back on.
All right. Thank you, Kaitlin. Well. Take care. Much continued success.
Yes, I will for sure. I'll tell them hello. Thanks, guys.
Thanks. All right, that was WGN TV's Kaitlin Sharkey joining us here on Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Okay, Sid, let's stretch and tell off here. That's a great insight for us always. Like I said, we can't, let's not wait for another year before she comes back on with us. So, all right. All right, so let's take a quick break. Of course, we'll talk some more college too. As like I said, Illinois got a nice win against Ohio State, and of course, unfortunately, Northwestern loses one of their top players, and UIC with a not so good loss. So and so much more. A special edition of Old School TV Monday. A lot to talk about still, and to do still coming up next. LaKeena, McGee, City Brown, Second City Sports on Sports of Chicago. We'll do a little rapid fire coming up right after this.
This year, my mom got me the perfect bag for back to school.
These colorful binders help me stay organized.
These headphones are just what I need for studying.
These new sneakers are just what I need for the new year.
This jacket is a real must-have.
My parents got me the skateboard I wanted. It's pretty cool.
These scissors really come in handy in art class.
These colored pencils, too. These new socks, they can be a real lifesaver.
And I finally got my own phone to stay in touch with my mom.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you. Your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. A public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Hey, this is Dr. J, and I listen to Sean and Maya in the morning.
Welcome back to Second City Sports, the Monday edition, the first one for the month of February. You're locked and loaded and live in living color right here on Sports Soul Chicago. I'm Sid, that's LaKeena. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
Sorry for the chuckle, folks. You can follow my Keena McGee on the Twitter, X, at Q-Skirky, and the IG.
I love talking with Kaitlin Sharkey. She's always
Yes.
great, and you see why we have her on the show all the time. And real quickly, Keena, before we get to college basketball, we forgot to ask her about the Super Bowl. That's how big the NBA is these days. But
I know,
I'm sure
right?
she's gonna save her prediction for the show she's gonna do tonight and tomorrow on GN Sports Tonight. Don't forget to catch GN Sports Tonight. That's tonight and every night at 10:30 p.m. Central Standard Time on Channel 9 here in Chicago, and the WGN Plus app on the Roku TV. So you can catch it there. So I'm sure she's going to give her Super Bowl predictions there. Thank you, NBA, for, I'm not going to say ruin our interview, but making our show that much more relevant today.
Well, and congrats, they just I forgot to tell me, they celebrated 5 years. I know she's been there for like the last, I think 2.5 years there. So they just celebrated 5 years. They just had Dan Roan on, of course, who was the stalwart of the show. So and we gotta get JP, Jared Payne, of course, he's down there in New Orleans right now. Chris Bowden and Josh Friedman back on sometime soon, and we will. So we'll definitely have them back on. Now, I was laughing, Sid. I was chuckling because Pacoda, of course, they do their baseball, all their sports, particularly baseball perspectives, and they do their standings, and they've got their win totals. They got the Cubs winning 90.6, winning the division. That's 10 ahead.
90.6.
Yeah, 90.6 wins. That's their. I was chuckling because I'm like, wait, huh? Are we talking about the Cubs that won the World Series? Because they won that Cubs team. Because I don't think this Cubs team construction right now will win 90s. They may win like 85 at most, but I don't know about 90 wins. But okay,
now, real quick, like I said, we'll get to college basketball in a second, but 90 wins right now, I would take slightly under, and here's why. Do you trust Jed Hoyer, whose job is on the line this year? Do you trust him to get another starter, whether it's Dylan Cease or not? And you banking on, no pun intended, you're banking on Milwaukee coming back down to earth a little bit. Are they still a good team? Yes. I don't think they're going to repeat the year they had last year. Of course, it came down crashing down on them in that wild card game last year against the New York Mets at home. So I know they traded Devin Williams to the New York Yankees. He's going to be their new closer now. So you figure Milwaukee is going to come back down to earth a little bit. Pittsburgh, they still have that young talent, but unfortunately their front office doesn't want to spend, which is a shame. Cincinnati, I think they're going to be, we'll get into once we get into spring training in March, but Terry Francona, the new Cincinnati Reds manager, they're going to be much improved. And St. Louis is still trying to trade Nolan Arenado, and they're trying to get rid of some of the other pieces too. So they're going to do a transition time too. So the Cubs, the division is theirs, but 90 wins, not so fast as Pat Foley would say.
Yeah, and incidentally, they got the Dodgers winning the most at 103.8. That's the over-unders. The Pacoda standing.
That's more realistic.
Yeah, that makes sense for the defending World Series champs and such. They got the White Sox winning 61.5, which, considering where they were last year, that would actually be a big improvement.
Like I said, don't lose 100 the games, you're good.
They got Minnesota winning it at, they got their win totals at 86.2, which
I don't know.
I mean, I don't know about that, but they got Cleveland at 80 and KC at 81. Detroit 79.4.
They got Jack Flaherty back, so
yeah, that helps them a lot. So the Yankees, they got them at 90. They got others at Baltimore at just behind them at 89.2. And the NL East, they got the Braves winning it all in that division, 92.4. Then the Mets at 88.9 and 87.5 for the Phillies, which I think that's a little bit low, but again, that's just me.
Here's the thing about the NL East. If Atlanta stays healthy, I think they'll win that division. But here's the thing about the Mets and the Phillies. The Phillies, their offense didn't show up in the playoffs last year. We'll see if all those guys can stay healthy. I think they'll be dangerous. The question is for the New York Mets, how much will they sign Pete Alonso to? Because we all know that the talks broke down last week between him and the Toronto Blue Jays. It looks like he's forced to come back to the Mets now. Will they sign him to a 1-and-1 deal, 1 year prove deal, and then become a free agent again next year? Or will they sign him to maybe a 2 or 3 year deal? That's the main question that's facing the Mets right now, and Pete Alonso.
Yeah, that's going to be the thing. And if they do get him back, that'll help them a lot. So we'll see what happens. Now, if you guys want more about these predictions, go to baseballprospectus.com/standings. They got the 2025 standings for the upcoming season. These are as of today, February 3rd. So I'm sure those will probably change within the next month and a half before the start of the season. But I just thought this was funny. When I saw they had the Cubs winning 90, but that's why I was laughing.
That was a good one, LaKeena. Good one.
Yeah. I tried. I tried. Now let's get to some college hoops. As the Illini got a nice win against Ohio State and they got a much needed win too after losing a couple in a row. And look, they were down for a little bit, but Will Riley led the charge for Illinois. They went on a 13-1 run in the middle of the second half to help them pull, and they ended up pulling away there from the Buckeyes. Will Riley had 24 points there, and as our girl Kaitlin said it earlier, that like I said, we don't know which alliance you're going to get, so it's going to be interesting to see, especially with 6 weeks left in the season. So this is the alliance team that we know and love, but who knows at this point.
I watched that whole game yesterday. Shout out Kevin Harlan, Jim Spanargle. They had a great call on CBS. It was a tale of two halves for the Illini. As we talked about with this Illini team, it doesn't matter what kind of players they have. When they fall in love with the three, they fall in love a little bit too much, and that's what happened in that first half yesterday. I know the Illini shot it at a 20% clip overall, at 4 out of 20, but in that first half, Ohio State, they were driving the ball to the basket. Their passing was excellent. They were beating the Illini to the punch, especially on the inside. The Illini, as I mentioned, they were struggling shooting in the first half. They were committing silly turnovers, but wherever Brad Underwood said in that locker room at recess, the Illini were a different team. I don't care if you're playing high school basketball, college basketball, or NBA basketball. When your shots are not falling, drop their ball to the basket. And that's what the Illini did in that second half yesterday. And that's why they got the win. And they locked down on defense too, especially during the last 6-7 minutes of that game. So the Illini, they earned that win yesterday. I know we'll get to Michigan State and Purdue in just a moment, but the Illini are back in the conversation. I don't think they'll take the regular season title in the Big Ten, but they're back in that race at 7-5. Ohio State, they still have a little bit more work to do. They gave that game away, but for the confidence standpoint, as you mentioned, for the Illini, especially after losing a heartbreaker at Nebraska last Thursday night in overtime, this is a much-needed win at home, and I think it's going to do well for that confidence. It's going to do well for them going down the road. They just got to keep with that momentum into the next game after that.
Yeah, definitely, and a much-needed win for them. Memphis held off Rice 86-83. PJ Haggerty had 26 points for the Tigers. Nebraska with an upset in Eugene as they beat Oregon. Fred Hoiberg and his crew got a nice road win. Bryce Williams had 28 points, which is a season high for him there in that matchup. And DePaul got their second win in Big East play. They beat a rebuilding Seton Hall squad 74-57. NJ Benson had 17 points there. Where Bradley suffered a terrible loss at Northern Iowa, losing by 14 there. I saw that game. That game was over by halftime. So, yeah, Bradley's going to go back to the drawing board. They've lost like 3 in a row since beating UIC. Now going to Saturday's games. Auburn and Ole Miss, no trouble with Auburn, no trouble with Ole Miss. Johnny Brown had 20 points there. Knuppel had 22, a season high for him, as Duke had no trouble with UNC.
North Carolina, where were you?
Yeah. Duke,
boy.
Yeah, Duke looking like one of the best. Duke look like the best team in the country right now. They look kind of scary, even though Cooper Flight didn't have his best game on Saturday. But look, they got guys there that can pick up the slack. K-State, a nice win for Coleman Hawkins and his guys. He had 16 points there as they upset Iowa State, breaking their 29 game home winning streak there. Alabama, no trouble with Georgia. Tennessee, no trouble with Florida. The top.
Where were you at, Florida? I watched that game. I was disappointed.
Well, to be fair, the Walter Clayton Jr. looks like, thankfully, his ankle injury isn't too serious. He left early in the game, and that kind of just will start falling off of Florida after that injury. Now to this game, Texas Tech upset Houston on the road, and that's not an easy place to play. And JT Toppin, who is of course Obi's kid brother, he got ejected for injury. I think it was Mark Sears were their best players, and the coach also got ejected. But kudos to them for coming back and holding off Houston in overtime. But unfortunately, Juwan Roberts unfortunately traveled the final second. I saw the end of this game, and tough loss for Houston, but a nice win for Texas Tech.
Yeah, that's a competitive Big 12. We say it every year, LaKeena. You got about 4 or 5 teams that could be legitimate national contenders. Houston is one of them. Bad loss for them, but I think they'll be okay. Sticking with that Big 12, I know you were going with this. Kansas got upset by Baylor for the second year in a row, 81-70. I didn't get a chance to watch the whole game. I saw the highlights, but LaKeena, remember we were talking about at this point last year that Kansas, they were really struggling. I think there were 2 games under 500 in the Big 12 last year after that loss at Baylor. This year, I think Kansas is a better team, but it was a bad loss for them. I'm not going to sit here and say they're in trouble, unlike last year, but this kind of sets them back a little bit. Baylor, we'll see where they go from here, but I think this will be a minor setback for Kansas. I think they'll come out stronger in their next game and finish up strong in their Big 12 conference.
Yeah, they're in danger of not at least winning a share of the Big 12 title. That's the first time since Bill Self took over. So I'm not worried about them right now, but they were up 21 against Baylor, and shout out to Baylor, Scott Drew. I mean, look, people forget that he won the national championship in the bubble year. So this guy knows how to win, and that's gonna be and he, that. Well, we'll see. I mean, Kansas and Iowa State. We'll get to the schedule in a second, but they face each other tonight. So that who's going to be in the worst mood? I think that's going to be the key here in that game tonight. Michigan State was upset by USC. A nice win for Musselman and his crew. Another win there. They beat Sparty 70-64. Desmond Claude, who gave Illinois fits, in Champaign a couple weeks ago. He had 19 points there. So they're putting a nice little resume, the Trojans are. And Kentucky, Connecticut, I should say, held off Marquette 77-69 in Marquette. And nice one for Daniel Hurley. And they're starting to kind of figure things out too.
Yeah. And speaking of that next game you want to talk about, Arkansas and John Calipari's return to Kentucky. They get a big 89-79 win over the 12th ranked Kentucky Wildcats. I did watch this game, LaKeena, from start to finish. John Calipari, I don't like him, but that's a whole nother show. But I know the crowd was hostile there at Rupp Arena. It wasn't as ugly as I thought it was going to be, but you could tell that Arkansas used their energy. They were running up and down the floor, especially early. They were aggressive to lose balls. Kentucky, they struggled shooting throughout the game. I know that Mark Pope was trying to get his guys up. It was a very competitive second half, but the Razorbacks did the little things to come out with that big 10-point victory. They really took control, in my opinion, midway through that second half. Great coaching job by John Calipari. I still don't like him, but I have to give credit where credit's due. Arkansas were the better team.
Yeah, I mean, every once in a while, right? You got to give him props. I know you don't want to, Sid, but yeah. He did a real nice job, and his players, their credit. I mean, they needed this win desperately, and they got it. So can't really be too much about it. I know I saw like I said, there wasn't booing or anything like that, but you could tell it was very hostile at Rupp Arena on Saturday. But look, Arkansas got a nice win there. That's helpful with their resume. So they needed that win and they got it. So give them credit for that. A&M edged out South Carolina. And the five of Mike Burmas. We got to get him back on too from NBC5 Chicago. This is his alma mater, Mizzou. They beat Mississippi State 88-61. Caleb Grill had 20 points. St. John's held off Providence. Wisconsin.
Ray Pitino's having a nice year.
Yes, he is. Probably one of the best years St. John's had in a long time. Wisconsin, they came back and beat Northwestern. And unfortunately, Brooks Barnheiser, who's one of their veteran guys, he injured his foot, in a summer, I think a summer camp. And of course, he kind of lingered on. He re-injured it last month, a few weeks ago, and now he's going to be done for the year. It's not career ending, but it is going to be. It's his season ending, and that's a big loss for Northwestern.
Yeah, you saw Chris Collins, the emotion that he had when talking about that injury after the game. I heard Lawrence Holmes from the 670 Score. He said this on Chicago Sports Tonight on Fox 32 last night with Lou Canellis and friend of this show, Jason Leisure of the Chicago Sun-Times. If you watch Chris Collins during that presser after the Saturday's loss, he reminds you of his dad. I know some people may take issue to that, but when you really care about your players, this is what it looks like, whether you like it or not. So we talked about Northwestern as a whole, with their season being over, about making it back to the NCAA tournament. for the third straight year. The odds just got more difficult now with your best player being out for the rest of the year. It's really a tough situation for Northwestern, but no matter what happens from here on out, Chris Giles will have the rest of those guys playing hard.
Yeah, you definitely. And there's no doubt about it. Those guys are going to play hard for him. So we'll see if Northwestern at least get some wins together, try to get together a nice resume. Georgia Tech, T. Forbes, his guys, they beat Louisville. And Porter Moser, his guys are back on track. They kind of fell off a little bit. Talking about Oklahoma did after starting at, I think, like 12-0. But they got a nice win against Vanderbilt. Washington beat Minnesota. Arizona, it got a little testy there down there in Arizona State, and of course, Bobby Hurley wasn't very happy about that. Caleb had 27 as Arizona beat Arizona State. Creighton edge out Villanova. And,
Chicago State won their third game of the year.
I saw that.
Yeah, they beat Long Island in overtime, 73-67.
Yeah, hopefully this will be a nice, maybe they can put together a little bit of a run here. Loyola, they got their revenge against St. Joe's, edging them out after an early meeting last month. And UIC with a bad loss to Indiana State. That's not good. Not good, Sid.
Yeah, and Drake, and speaking of the Missouri Valley, Drake got a big win over Southern Illinois, 75-65.
And BYU beat UCF. That's a kind of like a bubble win, so that should definitely help them in the quad win department. Eastern Illinois, they beat Lindenwood. Illinois State beat Valpo, and a couple other scores. SMU, no trouble with Stanford. Texas beat LSU, no problem. They're actually, and Miami, they got a nice win against Notre Dame. We know all the stuff going on down there in Miami. New Mexico beat Utah State in Mountain West play. And Syracuse got a nice win against Cal. And St. Mary's, about that game I was watching when the Luca AD trade went down. They held off Gonzaga by 4 points, 62-58.
All right, let's get to some key games in college basketball for this week. Starting off with tonight's schedules, we'll go through, like I said, the key games, not all of them, but some of the key games. Tonight at 6 p.m. on ESPN, Virginia will travel to Pittsburgh to take on the Panthers. The Panthers are 14-7. Remember, Pittsburgh upset UNC last week, University of North Carolina last week. We'll see if they can build on that. Other action as far as tonight, if I can grab the schedule here. Iowa State and Kansas, 8 p.m. on ESPN. Big game for Kansas, as we talked about losing at Baylor on Saturday. And Idaho State will host Northern Colorado at 8 p.m. on ESPN+.
And a doubleheader between HBCU schools. You got North Carolina Central, Norfolk State at 6 o'clock. And the nightcap for that game will be Alcorn State and Grambling. So a little black college hoops for historically black colleges, so that should be a fun down there. And they always do it this time of year, so I'm glad ESPU is still keeping it with the tradition.
Yes. Tomorrow, Tuesday, on FS1 at 5:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, number 11 Marquette Warriors will travel to New York City to take on Rick Pitino's 12th ranked St. John's squad. They're 19-3 on the year. That should be a good contest on FS1. Currently, the St. John's University is favored by 3.5.
Should be a good one. It could be a first to 90. Excuse me.
Yeah.
That game. So that should be a fun one.
The overall the total is 144.5.
See, I was saying you might take the over on that one.
You heard it from LaKeena.
SC Network, Vanderbilt, and Florida. That's at 6 o'clock on the SEC Network. Purdue and Iowa should be an interesting one there on Peacock at 6 o'clock. And Kentucky and Ole Miss at 6 o'clock on ESPN. So that should be interesting to see who. That should be a fun one there. Drake and Murray State on ESPN2 at 6. LaSalle and VCU. This is a little A10 action for you guys. CBS Sports Network. And Minnesota and Penn State on BTN.
Yeah, speaking of the Big Ten, at 8 p.m. tomorrow on Peacock, number 21 Wisconsin will host Indiana. Wisconsin 17-5 on the year. Indiana 14-8. Big game for both teams. Let's see if Mike wants to pull a rabbit out of his head. Indiana desperately needs this win on the road. Loyola Chicago will host St. Bonaventures. That's on CBS Sports Network tomorrow at 8 p.m. And speaking of Northwestern, tomorrow night at 8 p.m. at the same time on Big Ten Network, they will host USC.
Michigan State and UCLA at 9 o'clock on Peacock. That should be interesting when their UCLA has been playing much better lately. So I know Michigan State's going to want to take their loss against SC out of their mouth. So we'll see what happens in that matchup. Arizona, they're back in the top 25 first time this year. They will face BYU at 10 o'clock on ESPN, a Big 12 matchup there, mind you. And Boise State UNLV at CBS Sports Network also at 10 o'clock. So a little nightcap in the Mountain West Conference.
All right, your schedule for Wednesday looks like this. Oregon will travel to the Midwest to take on number 24 ranked, the Michigan Wolverines. That's at 5:30 p.m. on the Big Ten Network. This is the games for Wednesday. At 6 p.m. on ESPN2, the return of Dick Vitale. That's the number 2 Duke Blue Devils will travel to Syracuse to face the Orangemen. So Dick Vitale will make his season debut on ESPN. At the same time, on the SEC Network on Wednesday, number 15, Missouri will travel to number 4 to face Tennessee. Locally, UIC will battle Illinois. Yes, Illinois State, I should say. UIC will host Illinois State on Wednesday. That's at 7 p.m. on ESPN Plus. Shout out G Hood. Hopefully, UIC get back on track. A big game for both teams here.
Yeah, huge game for both of them. Number 23, Illinois, they'll go to Jersey Mike's Arena in New Jersey as they face Rutgers at 7 o'clock on BTN. Creighton and Providence on FS1. Villanova and DePaul at 8 o'clock on CBS Sports Network. Arkansas and Texas, we'll see if Coach Cal's guys can build off that upset at Kentucky as they face Texas at 8 o'clock on ESPN2. Colorado State, New Mexico at 9:30 on FS1. Nebraska and Washington at BTN at 9:30. NC State in California on ACC Network, and more ACC action at 10 o'clock. You got Stanford hosting Wake Forest.
And locally, back to college basketball. Locally, Belmont will travel to Bradley to take on the Braves. That's at 8 p.m. on Wednesday on ESPN Plus. Bradley, they need to get back on track here. They're 18-5 on the year. They're battling Drake for that top spot in the Missouri Valley Conference.
Should be a good one there. Thursday, real quick. Yeah, Maryland and Ohio State. Maryland back in the top 25, first time this year. They face Ohio State on FS1 at 6. Yeah, Temple and South Florida on ESPN2 at 6. Marist, they've been playing very well. They're undefeated their conference still. They face Fairfield at 6 o'clock on ESPNU. And let's see here if there's anything. Well, Washington State and Oregon State, Pac-12, Pac-10, Pac-12 rivals facing each other. Now, this year they're going to be in the West Coast Conference with St. Mary's and Gonzaga. So this is a WCC game at 10 o'clock on ESPN2.
All right, and of course, Washington State, Oregon State, that's at 10 o'clock on ESPN2. That's your schedule for college basketball for this upcoming week. You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago City. LaKeena here with you. Coming up will be Old School TV Monday, our first edition into our entry for Black History Month 2025. LaKeena, is there any other grievances, any concerns, any other nuggets, news that you want to give to the people before we close out with Old School TV Monday?
I mean, shout out to Iowa for upsetting on the women's side for upsetting USC and Caitlin Clark jersey retirement night. So a nice win for Iowa. I know that place was packed at Carver Hawkeye Arena, and they actually have not won against a top 5 AP team at home in almost 20 years. So a nice win for the Hawkeyes there. But yeah, that's about it. They fall to
I think AJ Wilson had her jersey retirement too.
Yep, at South Carolina. Yes, she did. Yeah, she
congrats
did.
to her as well.
Yeah, both her and Clark are very deserving. So but South Carolina didn't win their game yesterday. But so.
Oh, well, I wanted to get to the story of LaKeena. I don't know if you saw this over the weekend, but we all know that the Oakland A's are playing their games in Sacramento this year and for the next 2 years after that. But one of their sports editors from the San Francisco Chronicle, she wants the writers to call them the Sacramento Athletics, and not too many people are happy about that.
I can't say I blame them because the Sacramento Athletics, that doesn't even sound right. So I don't blame it, and I think a lot of people in Oakland will not be happy about that either. So you may have to do what the Utah Hockey Club is doing. Ask the folks to get some choices and ask the people. And look, we said with our buddy Larry Beal from ABC7 from the Bay Area a few weeks ago. There's no guarantee that Sacramento they're going to be staying in Sacramento for after these next couple of years. So what's the point? Just say that
exactly.
baseball team or baseball club or whatever. That's me.
Yeah, it's just the way that ownership is talking about for Oakland, for the Athletics has really ruined that tradition history of that franchise. It's really a shame. It's embarrassing. So I don't get it. The A's fans deserve much better. I know their home games will be at a minor league ballpark, which holds 14,000 people. Yes, they'll host the Cubs, I believe, on March 31st for their home opener. So they'll get us out there because they're playing the Cubs. But outside of that, it's been a terrible time if you're an A's fan. So we're with you, A's fans, and hopefully that whatever happens with that franchise will be resolved in a respectful manner. Speaking of the Utah Hockey Club, LaKeena, they got a couple of names, as you mentioned, rejected, rejected, and now I don't have the names in front of me, but can we come up with something more creative? Because you look around these minor league teams, whether it's basketball, hockey, or baseball, they really have the better names. You can't come up with a creative name for a pro team.
Well, I mean, it's Utah, so I think it has to fit, the state. So I don't know.
I get it, but
yeah, I mean, I don't think there's really much. I mean, the Jazz. I mean, remember when Utah Jazz became? That was actually
from New Orleans.
Yes, so that's how they just went ahead and kept the name, and it actually has worked all these years. So I don't know how you're going to do it with the hockey, your hockey club. I would say just keep the Utah Hockey Club. I mean, that's really the only decent thing you could actually use. So I don't know.
The Utah Snow Bears? I'm just throwing it out there. I don't know.
We'll go
the Polar Bears? I don't know.
or Grizzly Bears. I know that's Montana. I know it's like 2 states up, but it's something. But I don't
know. Yeah. Unbelievable. Oh, one more question to ask before we close out for Old School TV Monday. Did you catch any of the Pro Bowl at all?
Like a minute. That's about it.
I caught only 20 seconds of it when I was turning the channel yesterday on my TV in my living room. I had it on NFL Network. Of course, they replayed it. I was looking at something else. I was like, I left it on NFL Network. I know why now, because yesterday on NFL Network they were replaying all the Super Bowl highlights from years past, and then I think last night they were showing the Pro Bowl game. I saw like 10 seconds of it. I was like, I'm not interested. Boop. I think the NFC won anyway, like 79-63 or something like that.
Yeah, something
like an old college basketball score.
Yeah, exactly. So if you took the over on the Pro Bowl, I think you had a nice a closeout to your weekend.
Good for you.
All right, Sid, let's get into some Old School TV Monday. As we said on Friday, we're gonna spend all February, every Monday in February, we're gonna be dedicating Old School TV Monday to a Black sitcom. Some sitcoms that a couple of you'll know and love, but others you might have forgotten about. So, but this one falls in the former category. So, Sid, tell us which sitcom we're honoring for Old School TV Monday this week.
This will salute a Chicago legend. His name is Robert Townsend, and yes, we are saluting the WB 1990s TV sitcom, The Parenthood. The Parenthood was an American sitcom television series that aired on the WB from January 18th, 1995 until July 25th, 1999. The series starred Robert Townsend and the late Suzanne Douglas, originally to be titled Father Knows Nothing, a parody of the 1950 sitcom Father Knows Best. The series was one of the 4 sitcoms that aired as part of the original 2-hour Wednesday night lineup that helped launch the WB, along with the Wayans Brothers, Unhappily Ever After, and a short-lived Muscle. From November 21st to 2023, The Parenthood was streamed on several episodes on HBO Max. The premise of the show was a series that revolved around a former Black English professor, Robert Peterson, who must cope with the fatherhood after his wife, Jerry, decides to return to the working field to their 4 children, which they share a brownstone townhouse in an upper middle-class neighborhood in Manhattan, New York. Robert quickly learns that he needs to rule his house with an iron fist, and he realized that the world that his kids are growing up in was very different on how he grew up.
Yeah, and and not to be confused with Parenthood, not the movie with Steve Martin as Mary Steenburgen from 1990, and not to be confused.
Very different.
Yeah, and that's because with the drama that aired on NBC for I think 6 years with Craig Nelson, Lauren Graham, and Peter Krause. I think Michael B. Jordan's also appeared for the first couple of seasons of that show. Not to confuse with that show. This is a totally different. Show. But yeah, and if you saw, he also used his imagination when the kids are going through a problem and how he flashed back to when he was younger and how he would have handled it back in those days. Just a different time. The kids, were great. Kenny Blank, of course, who we never really got a chance to. We never really got an answer why he left. He left after season 2, and we never really got an answer as to why. But he did do that. He had a real career on Living Single after he left. So I guess, but Rachel Gomez, she is now a big social media influencer now. So good for her. And Curtis Woods, who played Nicholas, he now works for NBC Universal. He actually does a lot of editing for.
Yeah, he's a big time production manager. Yeah.
Yes. So good for him. And Ashley Adams, who played Cece, she is happy being a wife and mom. So and she does. I think she does some stuff on YouTube as well. I've seen. And so good for her. Tyrell Dazell Burton, of course, he's now known as Ty Burton. He's done some comedian stuff on YouTube, and he's actually embraced the fact that he joined after. In season 3 as TK, so he's embraced that. But yeah, I think it was a great sitcom. It didn't fall on the pratfalls or anything like that. That's what Robert Townsend wanted. But they did do the trope of the older son leaves. Someone else comes in with a troubled kid and all that stuff. And incidentally, in their last season, there actually was supposed to be a last season. If you guys don't know. WB at the last minute actually brought the show back for mid-season for 13 episodes. That's why, but it didn't end until around 1999. So those 13 episodes, a lot of people don't know that. So, but it was actually going to leave in a cliffhanger. So I'm glad they actually brought it back. But the show just kind of lost its edge after Kenny Blank left.
Yeah, and I know they got more tougher with the storylines you mentioned when they brought in TK, and they got more serious, and they tried to keep that balance, but it kind of lost its way. And I agree with you, in my opinion. But during those first 3-4 years, that was a great show. I was actually watching some episodes over the weekend. You could watch them. I think the entire series on YouTube. Just go find the clips. But you mentioned with the guest stars, it included Michael B. Jordan before he got big.
Yep.
Usher, Coolio that I saw this morning. If you remember that episode, Robert Townsend brought Kenny Blank's character to the hood because he was part of the music group in the series, and they was doing gangster rap back then. Also, too, Usher was a guest star on that show, and Bianca Lawson. For those of you who don't know that name, she was in Save the Last Dance 25 years ago. But before then, she got a big break on Saved by the Bell, the new class. So she was a guest star on that show as well.
Yeah, so there were definitely a lot of before there were stars or stars of that show, and it was definitely hard because it got a little like you said, it got a little bit too preachy, in those last couple of seasons. It just and I can see why some people felt that if you look back on it now, I think some people felt that it was a little bit too much. And look, we talked about it, Sid. I mean, when you're trying to do more serious topics in a sitcom, you can't beat people over the head. They can't be preachy. I think that's what happened with Parenthood, is that they got a little bit too preachy. They tried to be a little more serious, and I get what Robert and the rest of the producers were trying to do, but it was just too much. I'm sorry. It just was. I don't really don't watch those episodes because I really didn't like them very much. Plus, we never got an explanation why Michael left, so we still don't know. I remember someone asked Ray Gomez on Twitter, actually, what happened with Michael, and she said, I don't know. she doesn't know either. So after all these years, so go figure.
Yeah, just like the series finale of Moesha, one of those mysteries that'll never get solved. But but you can still enjoy those episodes on YouTube from seasons 1 through 5. And like you said, the first three years of that show, they were great. Black families being celebrated in a positive light. There was no really stereotypes that you were offended about. Robert Townsend went against the tropes, and not to get on his movie career a bit, but if you remember, he was the director of The Five Heartbeats, still one of my favorite movies of all time. Of course, back in 1987, he did the Hollywood Shuffle. For those of you younger folks out there, you heard about the movie, but don't know what it is, go look at it, go stream it. The Hollywood Shuffle, it was him and Anne-Marie Johnson. They were talking about blacks in the movie industry back then, and some of that stuff in that movie still resonates to this day. I'll leave it at that.
We gotta do that. We gotta do that for Old School TV Monday at some point because I was thinking about that we were doing this. I thought about that too. I'm like, yeah, that they probably need to show that now in a lot of black cinema and television classes. But I'll leave it at that. But the weird thing is, that he said that, but he actually ended up doing the trope in a later season. They brought in the troubled kid and for the wrong side of the track. So yeah, they ended up doing one of those sitcom tropes too. So yeah, go figure. So you guys weren't that much different from the other one. So yeah, you can miss me with that one. But yeah, and also rest in peace to Suzanne Douglas, of course, who played Jerry the mom. Sadly, she passed away in 21 from cancer. After a short bout with cancer. She was a dancer and such. Probably her best known role, but she did a lot of episodic stuff as well. So that was sad to hear when I heard it. She's from here in Chicago. And she was from right here in Chicago too. So really sad to have heard that when she passed away a few years ago. But yeah, like Sid said, it's on YouTube. I think Pluto TV streams some of those the show as well. I think they have like I said, they have a black section, black show section. I know that especially now since Black History Month. So you guys can check that out as well. So it's right there on Pluto TV as well, and I think various other places. I think it's on Netflix as well, if I'm not mistaken. I'll double check real quick, but there are places you could go to find episodes of Parenthood if you guys want to watch it.
So our first entry into Old School TV Monday 2025 Black History Month edition, we salute the WB 1990s sitcom The Parenthood. LaKeena, close us out.
And we got more coming up. So can't
yes.
you guys never gonna want to watch this segment within the next few weeks. You can follow my Keena McGee on the Twitter, X, and on the IG.
You can follow your Shirley Sidney Brown. You can follow your Shirley Sidney Brown on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80. Be sure to download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Please follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms. Please subscribe to our podcast. We're located at War Media Podcast. That's WARR Media, PODCASTS. We're on all podcast platforms, including that iHeartRadio app. And while you're at it, give War Media a follow at WARR Media on all social media platforms. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
Be sure to catch Second City Sports live in living color every Monday, every Friday from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, right here on Sports Zone Chicago. One more again, as the kids would say. Be sure to catch Second City Sports live in living color every Monday, every Friday from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, right here on Sports Zone Chicago.
And of course, we'd like to thank our good friend, Miss Kaitlin Sharkey from WGNTV for joining us
today.
You can catch her on GN Sports tonight at 10 o'clock, like I said, on WGN TV Plus on the app and WGN TV Channel 9 right here in the Chicagoland area. Yay.
And don't forget, coming up next, following us is a special edition of Sean and Maya in the Morning with our guy, Mr. Sean Sierra, Mr. Bossman, right here from Sports Zone Chicago. He'll take you through your afternoon. He'll have the latest on the Bulls trade and the latest coaching hires for the Chicago Bears, and he'll have the latest with the Myles Garrett trade request situation as well.
Should be a fun show. I know he's gonna have a lot of opinions about those things as usual.
Yes.
So make sure you guys check that out coming next. As we'll be out of here, but of course we'll try to get some somebody on the previous Super Bowl 59 between the Eagles and the Chiefs. They're both teams are in the Big Easy as we speak, so we're definitely gonna have somebody on. We'll talk about prop bets, games, and all that other good stuff. So make sure to check us out on Friday.
Yes, and we will provide.
So for Sid, I'm LaKeena with Second City Sports on Sports in Chicago. Enjoy the basketball. Stay safe. Stay warm. It'll be all right, folks. And we'll talk to you guys on Friday.
Holla!